So sorry.
Hello, friends out there in podcast land. This is Hugh Smiley, and welcome to the at Hugh Smiley podcast channel. And it's been a few days, a week or so, since we had our last interview. And I have a very special guest today. And just before we start, if you would be so kind as to, if you like it, click on like and subscribe to our little podcast, and then you'll get a notification when we have another guest in the future. And it helps us to have a little bit more substance as an entity as well. So thank you. So today I have Claudia Aguirre, who is from Waterloo area of Ontario, Canada. And Claudia is a very interesting individual. First of all, welcome to the podcast, Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Hugh.
It's really great. I'm so appreciative of, I know that you're so busy and you have a little daughter. 1 year old? No, more
Yeah.
than that. Yeah, yeah.
16 months.
16 months now. I can hear her. Yeah,
Yeah, she's crying.
Turita. The proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
So I know you're very busy and you work and you teach and you study a multifaceted life and a family and a household. So I really appreciate taking some time to share your art and your ideas and a little bit of your background and your studies, which have been very interesting, unusual perhaps, a little unorthodox. So you mentioned, well, you told me a while ago that you were llevando a cabo, speaking Spanish, uh, giving or offering a workshop on art or music and spirituality. Is that correct?
I was taking a
Oh, you
workshop.
were taking. Ah, okay,
Yeah,
great.
on
Okay,
music and
I wasn't sure about
spirituality.
that. All right. Ah, so if you would like to share a bit about that, your experience there, what you learned, what it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, so I'm going to take this opportunity to, I guess, maybe in passing, give a plug to the program that I'm in, which is
Sure.
community music PhD program at Wilfrid Laurier University. And I've been very pleasantly surprised at just how nurturing an environment it is. And one of the examples of that nurturing is that for the PhD students, as part of our doctoral special topics or doctoral seminar special topics, which
Yeah.
are weekend long seminars that the
Uh,
PhD students get to attend every couple of months.
right.
We had one that was specifically around the theme of music and spirituality. So
Ah,
that was not this past weekend, but the weekend before. We all got together Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we got to explore this topic of music and spirituality and how do we conceptualize spirituality for ourselves and one step further than that, how do we bring in that spirituality into our own work as PhD students?
ah,
It was
wonderful.
I've never seen this in, so I've tried getting my PhD at least twice before,
Right.
and while I have seen examples of self-care and introspection through different university um, networks or provisions, like for example a meditation group offered at Leeds Beckett University where I was for a while. I
Right.
haven't seen anything like this actually built into a PhD program. So it was really refreshing. It was very welcomed, and it was very welcoming.
Well, so what is the subject of your PhD or the
So
topic?
yeah, so my topic is actually looking at can the question I guess is can continuing to, or can not continuing per se, but can engaging in music and dance in older life, like in your seniors years, can that make contributions to your well-being?
Okay. Okay. So the
So
workshop then that you attended was very much relevant and aligned with the subject of your thesis. So it wasn't just sort of a self-help kind of like a little meditation group or something, but it was really part of the curriculum, so to speak.
It could be. It could be. It depends on how I learned to tie it together. But I felt more so it was in this case it was for the students
Okay.
and whether the students decide to integrate that
Right.
into their research kind of depends on the research question and also the research design. But but the first step is really was really for the students to tap into their own
Right.
spirituality
Wow.
and how they bring themselves into their work.
Well, these are two of my favorite subjects, maybe in all the world, music and spirituality or art, but especially music. And I know that you have a very active musical life and you have a lot of talent. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. But this brings us to one of the questions that I ask all of the guests. And it's about your own spirituality. It's a good word, I guess. It covers a lot of bases. Um, is there something in your life when you were younger or recently, currently even, that is some kind of a metamorphic experience that changes your outlook or like an insight or a gestalt moment where, wow, you see something in a different way or a pivot that has caused you to go in a certain direction spiritually. Is there anything like that that you could identify, or is it more of a just a piece by piece, and gradually unfolding, what's the word, paradigm or perspective?
I feel like I've been going through that lately, and I think one of the at least the either the push for me to go through that or the revelation that made me see that I am going through that has been this seminar weekend. So we
Okay.
spoke at the weekend. We did a meditation, actually as part of an art therapy session.
Mhm.
We started with a meditation where we pictured ourselves walking through a path in nature, and then we come up upon a gate and we open the gate, and what do we see at the other side of the gate? And then there was some continuity in that theme when all the students were together with our supervisors, and we were talking about how it's a concept that's used a lot in therapy, where every few years people go through gates,
Mhm.
metaphorically speaking,
Of
in their
course.
lives. So a period of transformation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then in that discussion, I was like, I think I'm going through a gate.
Mhm.
And I actually think my gate is quite long. Like it's not just like
Right.
a flat door and then
Bing bang, ka-ching, ka-chang,
yeah,
and
maybe
there
it's
you're
like a
there.
series of gates
Okay. Yeah.
or a tunnel, but not a dark, gloomy tunnel, but
Right.
like a long
Right.
gate or
Or a
so it
labyrinth.
feels maybe a labyrinth,
Something.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that will
Well,
lead us to
interesting.
that
So,
gate.
I love that concept, that image of the gate, and the key to the gate as well is very symbolic. Chiron, which I've been studying a lot, is one of the archetypes he represents. Even the symbol for Chiron, the centaur, is the key. It looks like a key. So I know that when you talk about spirituality, it can be a very private thing sometimes. And sometimes we don't have a language that or vocabulary that really clearly
Mm-hmm.
can express what we experience or see. But if you can express a little bit, share when it comes to your own spirituality so far, or what is unfolding, or what do you see beyond the next gate, perhaps. It would be interesting because each person has their own unique uh, point of view, right? And
Yeah.
understanding
Mm-hmm.
of God
It's
or the cosmos or ourselves, our true selves. It's
yeah, or that yeah, the je ne sais quoi, that
mm,
unknown, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
The unknowable essence.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. It's hard to put words to it because usually I find myself in these seminars to be very involved and talkative. But this seminar, I found myself at a loss for words.
Ah, yeah.
And now we're going to do a follow-up because it is school after all. So we have to do a
Mm,
follow-up assignment, a follow-up paper, which is making me put it into words. But as I've let the activities of that seminar digest, I've been slowly finding the words to weave together
mm,
all of the thoughts that were going off in my mind, like a popcorn style thoughts, which was as we were talking and people were talking about their spiritual or spirituality and how they see spirituality, I kept thinking, oh, there's this. Is that my spirituality? Is that my spirituality? Is that my, and all of these concepts related to music and my life and my past. And I think what I'm seeing is that because I don't practice a specific religion, I was raised Catholic, but I'm not. I don't practice a specific religion now that I'm in my
Right.
adulthood.
Yeah. And your father's Jewish too, right?
Yes, he converted, so he was
Yeah.
also raised Catholic, and he converted
Interesting.
to
In El
Judaism when I was.
Salvador. That's very cool.
He converted here,
Oh, he
and
did.
actually, he had to complete his conversion in the States.
By here, that means Canada, right?
Yeah, here, Canada, and
Ah,
then part of his conversion, one of the ceremonies had to be done in the States,
I see. Okay.
just because of the way the regulations
Yeah,
were.
yeah. Yes.
Um, so yeah, I had all these thoughts going off in my mind that made me think, oh, is that spirituality? And then I doubted it. I thought about it and I doubted it. No, 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 that's not spirituality. But then I actually think it is. So one of the things that came up in the seminar was that spirituality is everywhere, right? So it doesn't have to be in an example that is purposefully spiritual per se or
Right.
purposefully religious per se. And
Right.
so what I'm realizing is that I actually think who I am, me, my spirit comes out in a lot of the artistic work that I engage
Mm,
in.
mhm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that when you see me dance or see me say, hear me sing, that you, oh wow, it's this big spiritual moment. No,
Right.
but I think it's just more maybe what it means to me.
Right. Like a natural affinity between your spirituality and your creativity. So you're not like consciously saying, okay, I'm going to channel Buddha or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but it just
Mm-hmm.
sort of naturally emanates when you move. You're a dancer and a singer.
More actually, not quite that way, because it's
Okay.
not even so much in my creativity. It's just more in that my own felt experience and appreciation for music and dance.
Mm.
That to me is a very, can be, not every time, because I also been doing this as a living, so that can cause a lot
Right.
of pressure and it can
Yeah.
be very anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
But just there have been times in my life, and sometimes in the most unexpected way, like at a nightclub, when you're just feeling that beat, and it just feels spiritual. Or you're sitting down at the piano and you're doing your vocal trills, and you let out a sound, like a big
Yeah.
sound comes
Yeah.
out of your small body.
Right.
That
Big
feels,
sound from small. I like that. Yeah.
it,
It's
it
true.
feels
There's
very
the
spiritual.
the creative process is well, we talk about the creator as another word for God, right? And lo and behold, we can be little creators, and when we do that, it unleashes something, a power. Um, and I know what you mean, that feeling of ecstasy in flamenco, for example, they call it duende. Could you speak
Mm.
a little bit about that concept? What is it,
Well,
or how have you experienced it, if you have?
I don't know if I wouldn't feel right saying that I have, or that I have duende.
Yeah,
I can speak to the idea is that it's again that je ne sais quoi, that like I don't, I like, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is,
it
but it's
is.
almost like this mystical
Right.
sense that is present
Yes.
in a person when
Yeah.
they sing or they dance.
Yes.
I think I can't remember who it was, but they described Bach also as having duende.
Mm,
So it can go beyond
mhm,
flamenco. It's
mm,
used as a
mm.
flamenco term, but it's used to describe
Yes. Yes.
that I guess that essence or spirituality or that unknown, that very mystical place
Mm.
that comes out in
There's
people's
a kind of, I
artistry.
remember the first time I went to Europe, I was in 2002, I believe, and I went to Spain and I went all over and I attended two, I think at least, flamenco performances. And one was in Sevilla and one was in Madrid. And oh, I was electrified.
Hmm.
The artists, they were mostly gitanos or gypsies. There was like an old woman and a young man and a young woman, different ages, and they were so obviously in a different zone when they were performing, and they had among themselves this kind of like jazz musicians sometimes this unspoken language, and to be part of that, it was a great privilege. And I just felt like goosebumps, and that was part of what led me to, I've got to learn how to do some flamenco. That kind of mystical presence, something more, más allá, something else in the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Claudia, I think that they talk about the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain, which we all have. And the left is more like the explaining and analysis and thinking, words, communication, data processing. And the right brain is quite different, and it's more related to intuition and maybe a gateway, to use that metaphor, a gate to the heart and the body, the soma, and the earth itself. So it's a whole, and the unconscious mind, where there's a vast reservoir of information that we can access if we have some tools. Meditation, mindfulness, and art, I think, is another gateway or entrance approach. So it sounds like, when you're talking about spirituality, you're saying, well, my experience up to this point in spirituality is more of a right brain thing, experiential. I know when I feel something, but I haven't yet decided to nail it down with a specific description in words. So it's you're waiting. Maybe that will happen probably, but or
Well,
maybe
hopefully
not. Yeah.
that'll happen a bit through this assignment that I have to submit in a couple of weeks.
What exactly is that? No?
So it's pretty much a reflection on that seminar,
Okay.
that where we are asked to reflect on how our life in the past, how we've noticed spirituality intersecting with music, or with our relationship with music, or with ourselves as musicians.
Perfect opportunity. If you don't mind, I could speak with you for 3 hours, I'm sure, and we wouldn't run out of subjects. But I promised the viewers that we'll keep these fairly short so that they can enjoy a video in one sitting. But this intersection, as you call it, of personal life and music and so on, you met your husband through music. And just tell me a little bit. I've met him too, Jules, an amazing person. But that would be an interesting subject, I think, to share.
Yeah, we met. He was studying flamenco in Sevilla at the Academy of Cristina Heren, and I was tagging along with some friends who were also studying there that summer, and I was taking classes at different studios, and we all got clustered into the same group of friends. And I don't know how many years it took, but like it was like 2 years after that initial meeting, we met again, just serendipitously or by chance. And then we kept in touch. We were long distance for a long time, and now he lives here with me. But I wouldn't say we conscientiously practice music as a spiritual
No,
practice or anything
right.
like that. But it definitely brings us together. I mean, we work together all the time, and we seem to appreciate that kind of
Uh,
essence, that duende. When we see it, we're really drawn to it.
yeah.
We
What a
love
wonderful
watching
thing
performers with
to
that.
be able to work with your mate, your partner,
Oh
husband,
yeah.
within a creative space as well. That's bringing so many things together.
I'm really lucky. We've talked many times, where we've said many times that it's not like, I wake up in the mornings and I go to my 9 to 5, and then I only get to see him in the evenings and on the weekends.
Yeah.
We really get to live our lives together, like all the time. Um, to the point sometimes where it's a little bit like, get out of my way, would
I can imagine.
you?
I can imagine.
but
Yeah.
but I would much prefer that than
Yeah.
having
And
almost
not,
having like two separate lives.
yeah, and not enough of the
Yeah,
other.
not
Yeah.
enough time together. Yeah.
You need to have a little shed in the backyard or something to send the other one to banishment temporarily. Doghouse. Uh, so tell us, I guess, I'm not alone here. Tell us a little bit about your art, and your relationship with it and what you do, And by the way, afterwards you could send me if you have a website and whatever you want. I can put it underneath the video. So if people want to know more about what you do, they'll be able to contact you or just know about your work.
Sure, absolutely. That'd be great. So I practice flamenco. I actually wouldn't call myself a professional by certain definitions, even though I do it for a living. I kind of see myself as a forever aficionada or amateur who, by chance, am lucky enough to be able to do it for a living these days.
That's
Um,
beautiful. Yeah. Well, I've seen you perform and you're very, very good. But I love that definition. Very humble and organic, you know?
Thank you, Hugh. Yeah, because you see the professionals that are operating like around the world, including here, but particularly I'm thinking about the ones coming out of Spain, and the level is just so much higher and more refined that I think I see myself as a vessel when I'm a teacher to helping people access and appreciate that even more. And I'm definitely proficient enough to be able to guide beginners,
Yeah.
people in the beginning of their flamenco journey, to start off their flamenco journey. So we teach here in KW. I teach in St. Jacobs actually,
Yeah.
which is
KW,
a
for, people
little
may be watching from Germany.
Kitchener Waterloo. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's in the region of Waterloo, and
Yeah.
it's a
And
two
it's about
cities.
1 hour and a bit from Toronto?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
120 kilometers west of
Okay.
Toronto.
Right.
Um, and there's a little village, the village of St. Jacobs, which is a little Mennonite town
Yeah.
traditionally.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
teach at this great little multi-purpose art space called Neruda Arts. So we're surrounded by artwork on the wall because there are different exhibitions. And it's a beautiful place to teach. So we teach beginner level or level one and level two classes. We might be adding another level class there. And in addition to that, we also perform in the region. So we'll do like La Lola tapas
Mhm.
restaurant. We'll do gigs there in the summer. But I'm originally from Scarborough, so I still do some gigs in Toronto with the
Right.
flamenco community
Right.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Flamenco is a very specific art form that comes from an area of history that I'm fascinated with, was called Al-Andalus in the Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
when the Moors, the Muslims were in control for almost 1,000 years of southern Spain. And there was this beautiful cultural
Melting
share,
pot.
yeah, what do you call it? Cross multicultural sharing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Jewish people, Muslims, of course, and then the Spanish as well, who were Catholic. So you had three major religions, and the greatest minds from all over the Mediterranean, the Arabic world, came to southern Spain, Andalusia, as we say, to study, to teach. There were poetry contests, and through the meeting of these cultures, like in the late 1500s, 1600s, the art of flamenco began with the underprivileged classes, like the Muslims and Jews, who were forced to give up their religion when the Spanish took over, La Conquista. Uh, but they lived in the poor areas, the slums of the cities like Cordoba and Seville and Granada and so on. But they would sing at night after working so hard all day. They came home and have these laments. So you have the Sephardic Jewish music and the Muslim or the Arabic scale, even sounds from as far away as India coming through, and the Gypsies who had been allowed to filter into Spain sort of became the custodians of the art form for a long time. And now it's just spreading all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And not that long ago, you might find in Toronto maybe or Montreal a little bit of flamenco 50 years ago, but in Kitchener Waterloo or little smaller cities and towns, nothing. But now it's
It's
growing like
really,
crazy.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
People are appreciating it everywhere. Actually, I think this is a good opportunity, Hugh, to point out to viewers, particularly because I'm hoping to share this with my community at Wilfrid Laurier,
Okay.
that people are very cognizant of the fact that it's not politically correct to use gypsies when you're referring to the Roma people. But
Right.
actually, as you know, as a flamenco yourself, the word gitano, which translates to gypsy in English, is 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 used differently amongst flamencos,
In
right?
Spain, yeah, uh-huh.
Exactly. Like it refers to that group of people you
Right.
just described who are
Yeah,
self-declared gitanos.
exactly. Yeah,
And within the context of flamenco, that's actually it's they are the gatekeepers, the stewards of the art form. So it's used with a lot of respect.
exactly. And
Yeah,
Gitanos are proud to call themselves Gitanos in Spain.
exactly.
It's different than
Yes.
in Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic.
Absolutely. So we're
Yeah,
not referring to the same group of people,
right.
and we're not using it in a
Derogatory
derogatory.
way. No, not at all. No. They are the Roma people, but that's used more in maybe France or
Mhm.
and so on. Yeah. It's so coming back to the nexus of spirituality and music, specifically flamenco, which is your main chosen art form and one that I love very much myself. What is it about flamenco that, when people talk about flamenco, even audiences, spectators, but especially people who do it a little bit, they get misty-eyed and they talk about fire and passion. What is it about the art form that can connect one to a spiritual kind of experience?
Oh, this is a nice question that you asked because, again, it brings me back to that seminar that I did a couple of weeks
Uh-huh.
ago. And
Yeah.
we spoke about part of spirituality. And this is that some of my co-PhD students are music therapists, and they're specifically looking at music to help with end of life and grief. And
Yeah.
so we spoke about music really being a vessel for allowing yourself to experience lament. And I find that to be so present in flamenco, where you're given permission to experience a vast range of emotions from anything that's like cheeky and fun and flirtatious and jokingly,
Right.
playful,
Saucy.
but yes, saucy, but at the same time, built into the art form is this space where you can have this
Hmm.
collective
Hmm.
lament.
Yeah,
Because who of us hasn't don't doesn't have a reason to lament,
of course.
right? So sometimes it's healthy to just allow ourselves to either express that ourselves or to feel it through somebody else who's expressing it
Yeah,
in a dance or
to
with
scream or
song.
cry or lament. Yeah,
Yes.
it's expected. Yeah, in fact, one of the main styles, palos as they're called, is called cante hondo, which means deep song. So there are all these
Hmm.
different styles, and there's one called cante hondo, deep song, which it really. I just thinking about it now. Siguería, por ejemplo. I start crying. It's just so deep. So there's this permission, as you say, to let it out and to hear it and to share it together in community. Because as you say, there are so many reasons to grieve, and I think we're becoming aware in this day and age, the collective trauma of the human race, intergenerational trauma, that we are all carrying a load. And how are we going to deal with that if we don't have some gates, some doorways to go through? Therapy, psychotherapy, music. My sister was saying this morning to me that she has written some poetry that she calls process poetry. So it's like an experience going right into the words as she's writing it that actually therapeutically processes her experience.
Oh,
So it's a
lovely.
fascinating aspect of music therapy and how music and healing and spirituality, like a triangle, can come together.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Very
uh.
nice.
So, on that note, no pun intended, I would love to invite you to sing just a little muestra, a little sample of something, a little flamenco, just to give people an idea. Some people know, and others have never heard flamenco.
Sure, absolutely. It's a letra that has been in my mind since the seminar, and
Okay.
I think in a nutshell, what I'm understanding from the letra now, with my perspective now, is sort of like you lost your sense of centeredness or your groundedness, like it was tossed to the sea, and then you're trying to find a groundingness again. Um, Yeah. I can't do this letra justice the way, you know, real authentic flamencos from Andalusia can, but it's here's my offering.
Thank you. Great.
Mm, Fui piedra y perdí mi centro, ay, y me arrojaron al mar. Fui piedra y perdí mi centro, ay, y me arrojaron al mar. Y al cabo de tanto tiempo, ay, mi centro vine a encontrar. Y al cabo de tanto tiempo, ay, mi centro vine a encontrar.
Ole, ole.
Thank you, Hugh.
That's so beautiful. I just the words are so few words, they're so simple. It's like a koan or a haiku almost. So few words can express so much. I lost my center. I lost my center. And they threw me in the sea. But after so long, after so much time, and we can imagine, what went on during that time, I found my center again. And here I am. It really speaks to the human experience. We lose our way, our path, and it's very frightening sometimes, and sad and scary. And then sooner or later we find it. Inshallah, ojalá.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something happens, it could be a person, it could be music, it could be a dream, or just time heals, the Creator is merciful to us and we find our way again. It's so beautiful. Well, I would love to have you back again sometime, maybe with Jules. Would that be possible?
That'd be great.
Yeah, would
That'd be
he?
great.
Yeah, and you could. Jules plays the guitar very well, flamenco guitar, and he teaches as well, right?
Yes, he does.
Guitar
Yes, yeah.
lessons.
He
Yeah,
accompanies the classes
and a
here, and we
company.
have,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and he has a few students here in Waterloo region as
That
well.
would be delightful. Yeah. Well, Claudia, muchas gracias. Would you like to give a little saludo para la gente de habla hispana, the Spanish-speaking public out there?
Hola, hispanos hablantes. Muchas gracias por escucharme y compartir conmigo.
Bueno, un abrazo. So thanks very much, Claudia. See you next
Thank you,
time.
Hugh. Yes, see you next time.
And thanks everybody for taking, 20 minutes, half an hour to be with us. I hope you really enjoyed this. And feel free to make a comment, underneath the video on YouTube. And you'll find Claudia. You have a website, do you? Or
Yes, I do. Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll put it in there with a link so people can check you out and get to know a little bit more.
Okay, great.
Alrighty,
Bye.
bye.